Hi, welcome to Single Marriage, a show about being single, being married, and sometimes being single again. I'm one of the producers of the show creator. My name's Kent Vorkink, and I'm sitting in today because there's nobody better qualified, which we will have next week. Somebody better qualified to co-host.
There's no one better qualified than you.
But actually there is. We're looking forward to it. This episode, our Thursday episode of the Single Marriage web series, is called Let's Get a Divorce.
All right.
And you know, it brings a smile to everybody's face, but let me go ahead before we go too far into the show and first introduce the two regular co-hosts, or as I call them, team leaders also, because what we have set up here is a classic Battle of the Sexes, which is not a battle of the exes. That would be a different type of reality show that would go beyond anything that we would be interested in doing. Now, battle of the exes is something I wouldn't want to step between. So just a battle of the sexes we can handle to a certain degree. We're web only, which means we have a little more license for yelling at each other than we do if we're on the radio. And so as a result, we want to welcome those who come throughout the show into our what we call our studio audience, because the world is our studio audience. But first, on my left, on your right on the screen, is the lovely Monica Barbour. And if you've been following her show, she has a show on AM 1480 here in the Utah area, and also on Utah Valley Live at monica.utahvalleylive.com called the Monica Barbour Hour. Monica, why don't you introduce yourself and give us your qualifications for being on the panel?
Okay, qualifications. I'm not too sure I have too many, but I am a human being and I am a girl.
That works for me. We'll take your word on the second one.
And,
I thought you were a woman.
Yes, okay, a young girl.
You are a young lady. You are a young lady.
I'm feeling spree. Yeah.
Well, you are. In fact, I'm going to ask one of those embarrassing questions in just a moment. But first, I want to.
And you will, won't you?
I don't have very many qualms about asking embarrassing questions.
Don't.
I really don't. And then on my right is Dr. Brent Gilchrist, and I'll let you introduce yourself. And would you like to be referred to as Dr. Brent, dude, or what?
I'm nobody's dude. I told my kids that like a long time ago.
Okay.
When my son started calling me dude in the middle of some discipline, you know, it's like, hey, dude, listen. And I was like, hey, I'm nobody's dude. So I'm Brent.
Okay, you can be Brent today, but in your other life, since you're Monica's regular co-host on her now Tuesdays and Thursdays shows, but you do some other things in life too that qualify you, and that some of your life experiences that have qualified you to be on this panel as the men's team leader. Yeah,
I teach political philosophy at BYU. I have a son who's been through a nasty divorce, and I'm a grandfather who has no grandfather rights in Utah, and I'm mad as hell. And so, and I could go on and on with other things, but
we hope you will.
We encourage you.
And also, we've kind of stacked our guests today. With some what are familiar faces and what will be familiar faces. And so, Monica, if you'd like to introduce your guest player on the women's team this week.
Yes, my guest player is Michelle. Is it Osmond? Osmond. I'm sorry. No, what's the Cope? Cope Osmond. Right, I knew it was Osmond, but Cope Osmond. And Michelle, you were going to be having a show on Fridays as well.
That's right. Every Friday, 10 a.m.
Following my show.
Exactly. And it's live after divorce, so please tune in if you are divorced in Utah Valley.
Yes. So we're excited to have Michelle. And she's going to, she has some experiences, and she's going to share with us, yes?
Yep.
She's wrapping up.
Take the children to the other room.
That's right.
Want to be in the middle here?
Hey, you know what? This is exactly where I want to be for this week. Starting next week, I'll be on the other side because, like I say, I'll introduce that in a minute. A little more qualified people sitting here in what we're referring to as the guest host or the referee position. And seriously, referee position. Now, Michelle, you're going to, again, for those people who are tuning in or are watching this later on demand, which you have that option if you catch part of the show, or if you want to tell your friends. It would be nice if our audience were to text out to their friends now and say, hey, join this, because we will be asking for audience input. They're going to be voting. Mm-hmm. They're going to be just like in a real studio audience. Now, we actually do have a studio audience today of one, which is more than we usually have here. And so, we have to kind of behave ourselves.
I'm nervous now.
And I know somebody's actually looking at us. And at the same time, we would hope that if you happen to watch this later on, which we expect that thousands of people will, that you can.
Dozens.
That's right. We want to invite you to join this show. A Monica show, obviously, from 9 to 10, Monday through Friday, and the single marriage shows as it goes throughout the week at 10 a.m. here on UtahValleyLive.com, because we want you part of the audience. We want to be able to get your input. One of the reasons we're doing this is to get your input, because the rest of us, we could sit around with bagels and juice or whatever and do this instead of in front of the studio lights, which actually are kind of bright. All right, now, on this side, I'll jump in and, well, actually, Monica, because you know Jay better than I do, why don't you introduce who our guest player on the men's team is today?
Okay, Jay Deher of Prudential Real Estate, and he's got lots of experience. And Jay, tell us about yourself. You're so excited all the time.
Oh, I'm just so excited. I guess I've done it all. I've dated and been married and dated and
yeah. You've dated and been married and dated.
Yeah. I've gotten engaged, and so I guess I'm like a real professional. They've invited a professional.
You are perfect.
Real skills over here.
Yes, you got tons of skills.
You are perfect for the Let's Get a Divorce show. And that's, in fact, now a little background, folks, because we broadcast on Utah Valley Live. Utah Valley Live is a site that I own along with my partner, Pete Hansen. He's the bow tie guy that you see on the website. His ads there off to on the bottom and on to the right side of the page. And Pete and I came up with this idea to have talk and we would cover events on UtahValleyLive.com that were related to Utah Valley, and we're live. Now, I know that took a lot to figure that out, Utah Valley Live. And so as such, as we're talking about divorce, about marriage, about being single, we initially will have, our focus is on Utah Valley. And Utah Valley is, even though, actually, Jay, I think you just traveled here, you saw a lot of houses here in Utah Valley.
That's right.
And so you're very familiar with the culture here and with the dynamics, even though it is pretty common for people, if you are not familiar with the Utah area, pretty common for the people north of Point of the Mountain to kind of make fun of the people in Utah Valley because
really, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't know.
And I have offices in both valleys, so I have
I
have good perspective.
Yeah, and so...
Oh, that's right, you do.
Well, and what happens is that we have some cultural... We have a predominant LDS religion. 80%, according to the statistics, 80% of Utah Valley residents, or 81%, are LDS. And yet, for those of us who are raised elsewhere and are LDS, we recognize there are some cultural quirks to you look at this.
A response? There's even more so for Dr. Gilchrist. That's why he's laughing.
And so, but we're going to address that because Utah Valley, that's where we are, Utah Valley. So what may apply for marriage and divorce and being single, where I was raised in West Los Angeles or in Canada.
Or San Francisco.
Or
area.
in San Francisco. And Michelle, you went to Provo High, didn't you? No.
I went to Timpview. I grew up in Dallas, but came here. I've been here since high school. So yeah.
And Jay, you were raised where?
Southern California.
Okay, that's right. We talked about that.
That's right.
And so not far away from where I was raised, although about 20 years later. And so at the same time, we bring with us a certain amount of experience, but we're going to try and keep our conversation focused on what's here because we really want to have this be an opportunity for people in our local community in Utah Valley.
And what do you mean by what's here? You mean local to our community?
Yeah, because if we start talking about what's real in West Los Angeles, it really may not have relevance to what we find here.
Right.
All right. So
Canada sure won't.
No, not quite. In fact, if Casman's paying attention, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to hear from Casey's Bend and Men again, and we'll be back in 60 seconds.
Okay.
And we'll see if she's actually paying attention. Well, actually she's not because up to right now. So when Casman gets it queued up, then we'll go to, maybe she went down and out. We have on Casman, Giles and Giles and Monet are love detectives.
That's right, Love Detectives on Mondays.
They are our co-hosts of our Monday show, Single and Loving It or Not. We gave a cue to go to commercial break,
We're trying to figure out something.
Okay, so we'll just keep going.
If you guys could move that screen if you can. What's that?
Another cue.
Oh, you want another cue?
Yeah.
Oh, and so now we're going to go to commercial break.
Yes.
Come celebrate spring at Hee Haw Farms in an authentic farm environment. There's not a better way to cure the spring fever than enjoying spring with baby animals. The most popular hotspot on the farm during this event is the petting farmyard with baby farm animals. What a delight they bring to the young and old at heart. Our petting farmyard includes baby pigs, cows, goats, and chicks, to name a few. Mama Pig has just had a litter, and they are sure to make you smile as they snuggle up next to her and fight for their place to eat. Spring Fling at Hee Haw Farms lasts until Saturday, May 12, 2012. It's open from 12 to 6 p.m. daily, Monday through Saturday, and closed Sunday. It's $5 per person, 3 years and older, and 2 and under is free, and includes all activities. Hay rides, animal train rides, a giant slide, and corn boxes and swings are a few of the activities you can enjoy at the farm. Be sure to plant your free sunflower to take home as well. Educational field trips are available for any preschool, charter school, or public school. Hee Haw Farms is located at 150 South, 2000 West in Pleasant Grove. We can't wait to see you.
All right, and I think we're back here on Single Marriage. I'm Kent Vorkink, today's guest host / referee, along with Monica Barbour, Michelle Cope Osmond, Dr. Brent Gilchrist, and Jay Deher. And we're going to have some fun over the next 45 minutes or so, and we want you as our audience. Now, we can see how many people in the chat room, and yet we know that some of you are watching. You haven't gone in the chat room yet. We're really going to invite you into our real studio audience in the chat room because we want to ask you some questions. And so we want you to vote on some things. We want you to give us a comment about Monica's makeup, whether or not you...
That's my sore spot. I never wear makeup unless I go to church and come here, for crying out loud. My secret.
And she bent my arm backward to not broadcast in HD today.
That's right, I did.
All right, here's a question for the panel. I want a quick answer from everybody. We're going to start with Michelle.
Right here.
Number one reason for divorce.
Whoa. Well, I was going to say sex, but that's what I think.
Okay, that's fine.
If I may expound on that.
You've got 20 seconds to expound,
right,
remembering that we are in Utah Valley.
Culture, there ends up being a lot of sexual disconnection. It doesn't work because they're not having sex before they got married, which is a good thing. I'll touch on that on my show, but I think sex is actually above money. So.
And your show tomorrow.
All right, so if I could rephrase that, you would say
okay.
Ineffectual intimacy between a married couple.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Got that. Monica.
Disconnection.
Disconnection between...
I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not too sure. Money, maybe. Money.
Oh, come on. Take a stand.
I'd say growing apart.
Growing apart. All right, Dr. Gilchrist. Brent.
I'm tempted to say money, but I would say communication.
Yeah, disconnection, communication. There you go.
Just the poor communication, lack of communication.
Okay.
All right, somebody out there in our chat room has commented that ineffectual intimacy sounds like a band name. So
I can use that.
I just didn't want to say bad sex. It's just somehow ineffectual intimacy. My mother is going to be watching this show, and I do have to mind it. Okay, and so Jay, number one reason for divorce, at least here in
I actually think it is sex because that's what cost me my marriage.
Okay.
But I would say conflict resolution on some of my other relationships.
Okay.
Okay, I have to add one more. That's everyone knows.
Keep going.
It's the most general and probably the most common because it fits into all these categories is selfishness. when it comes to any of those things.
All right, now none of those was the answers I was looking for. So for our studio audience, you've got 60 seconds to chime in with what you think I was looking for the answer to the question. The number one cause of divorce.
Well, you should have asked, what would Kent say?
Well, no, I'm asking them. Okay, somebody suggests bad breath. Okay.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, foul odors.
That'd be a sexual issue.
That's the number one reason for marriage.
Okay.
But
yeah.
it's interesting.
Well,
2 people on the panel said sex.
Well, yes, they did. And
So, you know.
okay,
I don't know.
and we will get back to sex in just a moment, but that's still not what I was looking for. All right.
They were on the far left and the far
right.
And I think there is a reason. Okay, financial reasons. Somebody has chimed in. Again, we appreciate our studio audience. The world is our studio audience joining in. So financial reasons. That's really big. And I actually, I Googled this because me and Mr. Google are real buddies.
You guys are
and we just do real well together. And so, if you actually say, "Give me the top reasons on Google for divorce," you get all sorts of different things. Now, they show up in different orders. Okay, but what I was looking for, infidelity, somebody pipes up with, that's on the list. Financial reasons. Addictions is also on the list.
Yeah, it should be probably.
Okay, that comes up. Interestingly, that's still not what I was looking for.
They also fall in with selfishness. So.
Selfishness, yeah. And when we want to get serious, that's when we're really going to try and split the difference between what the root cause is for divorce. Because it may be that, for example, that infidelity was what motivated one spouse to divorce. Yeah. But it likely wasn't the root cause of the problem in their marriage.
A symptom rather
lack
than
of commitment to the marriage, abuse.
Right. And so as we get into that, okay, all right, enough of this because we've got more fun stuff to move on to. The answer I was looking for, the number one cause of divorce, marriage. Okay, so let's.
Wow.
Oh, God. Yeah. I came to the wrong show. I should have brought my jokes because I have a few.
I've got some right here.
Let me help.
And the lead-in joke that I probably should have started with on that is this. Here's the husband. Husband says, "You always carry my photo in your handbag to the office. Why?" The wife, "Well, when there is a problem, no matter how impossible, I look at your picture and the problem disappears."
Oh, my God.
The husband says, "You see how miraculous and powerful I am for you?" And the wife says, "Yes, I see your picture and say to myself, what other problem can there be greater than this one?" All right. So
he's a distraction to her problems.
No, you said marriage is the reason for divorce, but now, I thought we were talking about Utah County here, but if we were talking about Canada, and specifically the part of Canada that I'm from, Western Quebec, so if you go to Quebec, that would be true, because people don't get married.
And we're going to,
more and more people live together in Quebec than anywhere, and so they don't get divorced.
Yes.
And that's interesting, Brent, because you bring up, and I know that you speak French because I think we went over this before. So, but first, let me butcher these names. And okay,
please let him.
The title "Let's Get a Divorce" actually struck me. I was talking to some unnamed people. And I didn't actually say the name there. And it just occurred as we realized that there was a need. And independently, as it turned out when I talked to Michelle about joining our cast of show hosts, that she also had seen a need to come up with some shows that could deal frankly and candidly with some of the issues related to being single, being married, being divorced, being single again here in Utah Valley. Which obviously have applicability to LDS people at large and the population at large to some degree too, as we talk about principles. And so I actually looked backward for some justification, because even though everybody smiled when I said, "Let's get a divorce," there still was a certain exposure that I was looking to cover my hindsight on, so that people wouldn't think that I was promoting divorce. In fact, the intent of this entire web series of single marriage is to promote marriage and to improve relationships with the recognition that some marriages won't work. Right. But that by actually examining it. But I wanted people to watch the show, so I thought having a title like "Let's Get a Divorce." So my friend Google came up with actually a play called Let's Get a Divorce in English that was written by a prolific French playwright and a co-author in 1880. And it's still, apparently, according to Wikipedia, because I like Mr. Wikipedia almost as well as Mr. Google, is still part of the French theater repertoire that they put on. And apparently the name might be Victorin Sardou and Émile de Nejac. Can you see that? Want to give those a try?
Victorien Sardou et Émile de Nejac.
Oh,
That
very
was so
nice.
much
I was about 75%
Really?
there. All right. And so it's a farce, kind of like the show at times. And it's kind of fun to read through. And the basic storyline of Let's Get a Divorce is that in France in the 1880s, when this play was written, divorce was still against the law. It came in and it came out according to the French law. And so the story's about a wife who has actually her husband, I think it's her husband's cousin, who attempts to seduce her and say, the laws are changing, divorce will be legal, so divorce your husband and marry me because I find you wonderful. And so she then goes to her husband to convince him, let's get a divorce. Okay, well, so the background to that was that divorce wasn't legal and they had to stay married. And so this is one of the quotes from the play that I thought was pretty interesting. If people are married for life, they become resigned to their fate. They make concessions. While if they had the hope of a divorce, they would carry things beyond all endurance in order to reach a rupture of relations as soon as possible. In plain language, it would mean the end of the marriage relation. Now, that was the concept that divorce allows people to end their marriages sooner. So anyway, obviously we don't live in that world right now.
Is the whole play online? Is the play there?
Yeah, you can find it online, yes, the entire translation. Cool. And so, all right, so let's go back to something serious. A young couple drove several miles down a country road, not saying a word. An early discussion had led to an argument, and neither wanted to concede their position. As they passed a barnyard of mules and pigs. Okay, everybody get that visualization?
Mules and pigs, got it.
Got it. The husband sarcastically asked, "Are they relatives of yours?" To which the wife replied, "Yes. I'm married into the family."
I like this one.
Okay. There's some really, every week we're going to have, whether I'm guest hosting or not, we'll pepper in some marriage jokes to try and keep things light a little bit. All right, so what's worse, bickering or silence? Jay?
I prefer silence.
Okay, silence. Brent?
What's worse?
What's worse to you in a relationship, bickering or silence?
Silence.
Silence. Monica?
Silence.
I gotta say bickering, because in the silence you can cool down and think things through in your head so that when you do come back to communicate, you're not bickering.
Okay.
Does that
no,
count as an
that's
answer?
good. Let's see. Anybody want to chime in from the studio audience? What is worse when you have a situation where it's silence? Perhaps I need to explain that better. Where you're not talking to each other, because Michelle, you came up with a very good communication technique to allow for good communication. But when your relationship gets to a point where you're no longer talking, and you just endure each other's miserable presence rather than arguing.
Wow.
See,
And is that like...
so that's different from bickering, but Michelle makes me think that it depends a lot on personality. Because for
Absolutely.
me, silence just means that it's stewing up and it's stewing
explosive.
up and it's stewing up.
It's underneath, yeah.
Because I got to get it out.
I don't think
Yeah, I'm the
so.
same way.
Not for me. For me, I like to just be
personality.
quiet and just kind of let it cool down for a little bit, and then I'm ready to let it. Okay, let's talk about it.
It's almost like the silence is deafening. It's louder than really the bickering because
All right.
it's the emotion.
Now, when it comes to, let me put in a supposition here. Based on personality types, do you think that maybe Jay and Michelle are more given to outbursts?
We never.
Generally.
We have to throw this out there. Hold on.
Very
Something needs to
personal
be
matter,
yes.
or-
You know, I
What's funny, and maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't, but Michelle and I didn't know she was on the
know, I
show,
know.
and as I walk in today,
Here we go.
Michelle and I dated about a year and a half ago.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so we show up here today.
Awkward.
We hadn't talked, and so she went and got married immediately after. I mean, like immediately after.
To tell you exactly.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I was actually
let's
not
not talk about me.
your
Let's not talk about you.
specific dating relationship.
You want to know how we dealt with
No, I want to
conflict?
know generally in with your personality.
God.
Yeah, honestly, I did not know.
I know.
Now the world knows.
I didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I thought?
You have
know
my
what-
ex-boyfriend here today.
You know what I thought? I thought, you know what? These would be a cute. And I thought I wasn't playing matchmaking. I thought, you know what? That's a good idea because they can meet each other. They kind of.
Oh, wow.
Nice job. It
Jay,
didn't
do you
work
want to go
out
out? Should we do
though.
lunch after this?
I don't really believe that they didn't know that, do you?
I wonder.
I'm starting to wonder now.
I swear I didn't know.
Wow.
All right. So
Anyway,
no, generally,
back to the point.
generally, because I'm not typically an explosive personality type, and so
Okay. Can I answer?
where'd my power cord
Uh-oh.
go? That's gonna. I'll have to do it by memory now.
Were you
No, we
nervous?
can-
We're gonna. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to commercial break.
Sounds good.
And so, did we find? If we found Casey's Bend and Mend, my friend Kevin Stubbs down in Provo, who's mending cars for a living. Let's play Casey's Bend and Mend. If not, let's go ahead and play tidbits of Utah County while I find my power cord and where it went, so I can have a clue as to what we're doing.
Everybody on the floor.
When you think about an auto body shop, what services come to mind? Collision repair? Ding removal? Painting and detailing? How about headlight repair? Power window repair and carpet cleaning? Casey's Bend and Mend in Provo will take those unwanted bends out of your vehicle and mend it back to great shape. For 15 years, Casey's Bend and Mend owner, Kevin Stubbs, has been using his artistry to get you back on the road looking good. Personable and approachable, Kevin will provide a free estimate and offers discounts to students and self-pay clients, in addition to working with all the insurance companies. Trust your vehicle to a craftsman, someone who will give you personal service and care. Casey's Bend and Mend, located at 85 East, 600 South in Provo. Give Kevin at Casey's Bend and Mend a call at 801-374-0930. You bend 'em, we mend 'em. All right, and we're back. Obviously, we're not waiting for the commercial break to continue having fun here on Single Marriage, the Let's Get a Divorce show. For those of you that are just tuning in or who decided that you've had enough of this nonsense, anyway, we're here. I'm Kent Vorkink, Monica Barbour, Michelle Cope Osmond, Dr. Brent Gilchrist, and Jay Deher. We're having a good time talking about what we're not going to talk about when Jay and Michelle were dating. Okay, so all I wanted to point out on that whole thing was that that certain personality types are more apt to blow at each other than others. And we know that based on personality theories and so on. And for what it's worth, I should put in the disclaimer that my wife, Dr. Jerry Lynn Vorkink, has a PhD in counseling psychology. And so if I ever need to be corrected on anything, I get corrected at home. And so
What's that like?
Sit into therapy.
What is that like? I didn't realize she was in.
yeah, she went. She got her PhD, and right now she's working at BYU.
So are
same
you
place
always
were.
wrong because she knows everything?
I'm hardly ever wrong. It's impossible to deal with me. And so, no, I'm wrong all the time. In fact, that's one of the enjoyable things about this entire series. Just as a sidebar comment, on our Wednesday show, yesterday I handled it by myself because we needed some time to get our therapist set up. But on our Wednesday show, which is the things we didn't know as newlyweds, we will have a marriage counselor therapist on every week. And so I happen to have been listening to Marilee Van Wagenen, who was filling in for Diana Hoffman a couple weeks ago on her show, Healing Talk Radio. And she was so good. And I've been married 31 years. Primarily, it's, the idea that there was so much I could still learn from that. And we're going to get to that concept. And Dr. Gilchrist, you've been married how long?
I was just doing the math in my head.
Okay, he has to think about it. Monica's been married
1981, so 31 years in September.
Yeah, right. And 21 years?
23.
23 years. Okay. And so, but when you are objective, and one of the things we're going to do on this show, I didn't have it today, we're going to have some props for next week, hopefully. There's a deal breaker sign, and then there's a therapist hat sign. And the reason we're going to have the therapist hat is that occasionally when we get out there, we're going to hand the therapist hat to whoever it is and say, now you actually got to think like a therapist and get out of yourself and talk about what's real here, because we get that way. 31 years, man, you can be pretty stubborn after 31 years, and you don't want to change some of your attitudes. And so that's one of the goals of this show, is personally and then also as a group, for people to be able to say, hey, I guess I could change that. All right, so let's go back. I have another joke. Let me go find another joke. One of the things was that, just real briefly related to the mules and pigs.
Yes.
I mean the in-laws. So.
Wow.
No, I like my in-laws. It's just to follow up on the joke.
I have to stay silent on
you know what? Because, yes, if your spouse is watching, you're in trouble. All right.
No, it's because my in-laws are all French Canadians.
They'll kill you.
And there's a reason that Nietzsche did not translate ressentiment from French to German. He left it as ressentiment.
Yeah.
Because that's different from resentment.
Yeah, gotcha. And it must be a cultural, long-term held tradition. How often do the in-laws, real quick, rapid answer, how often do the in-laws vote for divorce? In other words, are the in-laws a factor? Do they team up and they get behind somebody urging them to divorce? Does that happen a lot? I'm not asking specifically in your own circumstances.
I don't think so in our
absolutely.
culture.
If they don't like your spouse, if they're like, why the heck did you marry him? They're absolutely that's going to be your camp. When you're getting a divorce, you build a camp usually, and they're behind you. And so, yeah. But if they liked them.
How often? I mean, so we hear just as often that the in-laws maybe still like you. It's just they realize that the marriage wasn't working. How about anybody in the studio audience? While we go on to the next one.
The in-laws initiated my son's divorce.
Okay.
They did,
Yeah.
All right. Well, somebody has added in-laws are always a part of the marriage, but are they always a part of the divorce? So if somebody wants to opine on that, they're there like a bad cold you can't get rid of. Okay. All right.
Well, with Canadian weather, that's true. They're always there.
They are. Okay, some people ask the secret of Anthony's long marriage. They take time to go to a restaurant 2 times a week, a little candlelight dinner, some soft music, and a slow walk home. She goes on Tuesdays, he goes on Fridays. How important is alone time together outside of the bedroom? Monica.
It depends if you like them.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
If you don't like them, you can't get out of there fast enough. You don't want it in a little time.
Jay?
Alone time. Okay.
Repeat the question, please.
How important is alone time together outside of the bedroom?
I think it's extremely important, because you guys should be best friends. If you're not best friends, you shouldn't be together.
Brent?
I would say exactly the same thing.
Right.
It's
All right.
super important.
So what does it mean when you don't spend time together? An adult session of state conference doesn't count.
You are emotionally divorcing at that point already.
Yeah.
You're not connecting if you're not spending time together.
It can start with a distraction that is happenstance, like if you have uncles that want to take the husband on fishing trips and things, and you end up doing separate vacations and separate things, and you start to make your own worlds. And then you suddenly realize you're not spending time together, and you don't want to spend time together. So it can be that it's a telltale sign, but it could happen in a gentler way and then become a problem.
I think you just have to like somebody to want to be with them, and they have to be your best friend. If you don't have that, you're on shaky ground.
Yeah, you need to have respect and trust and lots of things.
Bigger sign of trouble in a marriage, arguing or not spending time together?
Not spending time together.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Because what you'll hear marriage therapists say occasionally is that when they have a couple that comes in and they're arguing out in the lobby, they know they still got a chance. If they're no, seriously, if they're sitting there quietly, just kind of individually stewing, then the marriage counselor says, "I got problems. I got trouble here," because this is a couple that is no longer engaging with each other. They have created independent lives. So one good thing to look for if you find yourself in if you find yourself in a relationship where you're not spending a lot of time, or at least quality time, and I'm not talking bedroom time. That's a completely different show, because most of the time we spend in the bedroom is sleeping anyway. And I'm talking about when you choose other things, as you mentioned, if there's distractions and you're not making it a priority. So, all right, so that's a key. Now, when we have a therapist on this show, hopefully in 2 weeks, these are the kind of things that we'll actually pepper at the therapist. Now, we know who's coming on to play the referee next week. Kelly Snyder, who is a local divorce mediator and attorney. Now, mostly she does mediation now. Now, she has a website, peacefuldissolution.com. Now, Kelly's going to come on. We're going to still bring up kind of issues, and we're going to have you guys kind of go at it a little bit more than we're doing now, because we're kind of being friendly now. And well, I can start really easy. Okay, let's the first question out. Who's more at fault for divorces, men or women?
Men.
How can you say that? How can you?
I would say I think it's 50-50 right down the middle, but naturally I want to say men.
Jay?
You got to go 50-50.
Okay.
You can't point blame.
Brent?
Oh, I think men.
Okay.
Women are the
Who files divorce more often?
Women.
Hands down, women do. Okay. All right.
Men are the problem.
Exactly.
Perspective. It's all perspective.
And that's the kind of conversation that we're going to have here, because
no conversation.
We're all being friendly at the same time. Let's be brutally honest. My parents were divorced, but I was too young to remember any of the garbage around it. And so, for those that have been through a divorce, it's not necessarily a pleasant experience.
Oh, it's horrible.
And part of what we are going to be asking Kelly to do is to give us some insights about what happens in mediation and some of the topics that are covered. So when she's on the show, which will be alternating weeks at this point, then we're going to talk about child support, we're going to talk about alimony, we're going to talk about custody, we're going to talk about, all the things that you're going to have to walk through. Well, yeah, because girls rule and boys drool. Okay, thank you for that. Right above here it says disclaimer, intended for grown-ups.
Can I go back to spending time together for a minute?
Please do.
My wife is living with my parents in Canada this year, taking care of them. My dad's 96 this year, and my mom's 91, 91, and she's helping them stay in their own home. And we fly back and forth and get together. But both of us hate grocery shopping, and we won't do it individually. We'll go into Walmart and get out as quickly as we can. Mm-hmm. But we go every Saturday morning together, and we spend the whole morning grocery shopping.
Cute.
And we love it. And we have the
Walmart does too, because you probably spend 3 times as much.
Well, we'll hit 3 or 4 stores.
Okay.
But you're right. We always buy way more than we expect to. And we
so
go
it's
to pick
a social
up,
date.
But and that's one of the things that we miss. Both of us miss the most.
Not being.
I get up Saturday morning. I don't know what to do with myself.
Because going shopping doesn't have the same kind of.
No, so I go to Walmart and try to go shopping, and I'll buy a video and walk out.
I'll look for you there
for 2 minutes, and I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's very good. Now, men or women, we're going to have some of these conversations.
Someone's saying "aw" to Dr.
Yeah, well, he is an aw kind of guy. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons he's on here.
Apparently,
is not that we're having Jay counterbalancing at all. So
yeah, I'm the other side. It's heavy over here.
I can play that. I can play that role just as easily. All right.
But it is the small little things that keep it together.
Well,
they add up.
If you don't have big things that are causing you to go apart. All right. So I told my wife today that this is not a joke. This is actually true.
Oh, okay.
I told my wife today that today was the Let's Get a Divorce show, and I said, so you're going to be watching? Of course, she's super busy during the day, so she's not watching. And to err is human. And the reason I'm going to follow up with this is, what about airing dirty laundry in a relationship? But the reason I bring that up is the thing she said to me was, don't air our dirty laundry. It's like, okay, now, and I understand, at the same time, here we are on a show, which is why we really don't want personal. I mean, we have some ground rules also for our chat room. Hopefully, as our studio audience will recognize, if you mention names and identifying information, we're going to have to ban you because we're not here for our guests. We don't get to talk about exes unless it's in the most positive terms. This isn't.
What was that?
Did I just lose it again? I'm having a bad power day today. Yes, I did.
Wow.
Here, I'll get it.
You know what? We got time for one more commercial. Assuming that our love detectives are out there actually paying attention. Play something interesting for about 30 seconds so I can plug in the other part of my power cord.
That looked like the way I fish.
Nothing on the end of it.
No, I pull something heavy up and it's like a boot.
Jay,
an athlete looking for a natural boost to your workout? Have you studied up on the benefits of nitric oxide production to your performance? Then you'll want to try Kyani's Nitro Extreme. Nitro Extreme promotes cardiovascular health and improved blood flow, supports muscle contraction and relaxation, as well as nerve transmission. I use Nitro Extreme right before I lift weights, and I've never been stronger in my entire life. If you don't try Nitro Extreme, you'll never know what you're missing. Call 801-362-9552 to order yours today. That's 801-362-9552.
All right, so what do you think? Where should we go for lunch today? Oh, we're back on. Just kidding. I'm not buying their lunch today. Although we have some great sponsors of the show that are coming up, and that you'll see more and more ads. I'm still loading up here as far as it's going. But the topic at hand right now is how much do you air to your friends and family and the person standing next to you? I mean, because obviously,
Zero.
well, thank you. During a marriage, are there topics? And today's younger generation, I can say that because I'm a senior citizen. Today's younger generation is much more open with their friends about what happens in a relationship and in a marriage, about intimacy or financial problems, whatever it might be.
Yeah, they ever.
And it was something that our generation, we started to get into that as baby boomers, and yet my parents' generation, it definitely was you kept your cards close to the vest and you didn't talk about certain things. They weren't talked about. Now, I don't know that it's a good thing that we have so much openness, because I don't know that couples are spending that much more quality time with open conversation. But the girlfriends, Bridesmaids, the movie, or The Hangover, whichever one you want to choose on the opposite ends of the gross out spectrum, are representative of how society at large, not Utah Valley necessarily, but society at large might treat, what used to be considered either sacred or taboo to talk about. Are there still things in a marriage, we're talking about a marriage, that are taboo that you should not share with your boyfriends, girlfriends, co-workers, unless it's a professional or a clergy member in the normal course of events? Do we still have taboos?
Well, absolutely. If you're going to share, it should only be positive things. You should only be bragging on your spouse and building them up. Dr. Matt Townsend, who is a marriage therapist, will, when he speaks to couples, he wants to know how much you are already ragging on your spouse to your friends and family, because that's indicative of where the relationship is. You're already bailing out if you are, and in a sense, like I said before, you're kind of building a camp when you're, complaining all the time to everyone else because you want someone to validate your concerns and all that.
All right, and I hear what you're saying. I appreciate that. That's good when things are bad. What if your girlfriends want to know what happened on the honeymoon in detail?
No, you got to respect your husband and not share.
Okay.
I think you can share the good stuff that's going on. He took me to this nice restaurant.
Okay,
wonderful
so
life.
there's an appropriate level of stuff. But
absolutely.
We're not getting into the gory details.
Not building the camp, but building a positive camp.
No, I'm not even
talking. Are you talking
camp.
about taboo? Like, can you talk about how great the sex is?
Right.
Can you go there and say, oh, and he's this big?
Maybe if it's good stuff.
Sorry.
We'll strike that from the record.
Yes.
That's what he's
That's
asking.
what I'm trying to ask.
Is that what you're getting at?
Well, that's one of the topics in my mind.
If I'm
that
in a great relationship and I share that stuff because I don't think a man is going to mind if I brag on him. No, Jay, for crap's sake. In a marriage.
I'm just saying, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Holy lands.
Okay, in a marriage relationship. So, no, but I recognize that, and that's what I'm asking, is that my generation didn't.
I think it depends on your personality.
We
too.
didn't share. And
Right. I'm kind
absolutely.
of a say everything kind of person. So most women are a little,
I'm very quiet about stuff.
Okay, well,
Right. So-
I offend Monica all the
a fault.
time because I'm more open than she is, and
I can be quite offensive. People just
but it brings up, and the reason I'm setting the stage here with that comment is that because there are different degrees, and it actually is something couples should probably talk about, because it may be that by habit that either the husband or the wife is more accustomed to sharing with buddies, stuff that maybe the wife doesn't want shared. So there should probably be a conversation as part of the marriage contract as to these things we share. Some people would not be happy to let their finances be known. Okay, absolutely. Other people might think, I don't have a problem telling people that I'm broke, but that might. So there's this list that should actually be talked about of things that maybe shouldn't get talked about. Now, you've built your camps. The divorce process has started. You've either gone to attorneys or you're in mediation. What happens to those taboo subjects?
With friends and family or the counselor?
Yeah, no, not with the counselor. With friends, family, co-workers.
Still quiet.
Man on
Zero.
the street.
Yeah.
Does that really happen, though?
No.
No, what really happens?
You go after the throat.
Yeah. Everything comes out.
Yeah, you
And
want to
some
be
made-up
validated
stuff,
for all
too.
your...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the made-up stuff is what, and things are exaggerated.
Again, it's personality. If you want to do that, you just reduce yourself.
All right, I agree. How common is it, though, Monica?
I don't know.
I think it's relatively common.
It happens.
I think it's much more challenging to get divorced with integrity than to get married with integrity.
But it can be done.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Okay?
Of course.
And so it can be done. So one of the goals, obviously, as we talk about these things, if somebody is committed towards divorcing because there really is a deal-breaker issue for them, is perhaps to provide some examples or some guidelines as how you can go through this process when maybe the other person isn't keeping a certain degree of decorum and they're letting all sorts of stuff out, real or imagined. And then you have to respond to that. I think that's one of our bigger challenges.
Well, if that's already happening, like earlier in the marriage, if one of the spouses is already wide open with stuff, then you know what's going to happen when the divorce comes along.
Hopefully, you know the personality. You're not married to that kind of person.
What do you do once you're in there, though? I'm telling you, once you're married to that person, you figure out it's not going to end well.
No. Okay. So it doesn't.
Some people are surprised too when you get into divorce mode and your spouse was not one to talk, but then when crap hits the fan, then they just go nuts, and you're like, "Holy cow!" And I think in those situations, to get divorced with integrity and decorum, like you said, the only thing you can do, the only option, what I learned through my divorce, is to just take the higher road. You can't care what they're saying. You can't change them. You can't stop the rumors, and all you got to do is live the best you can, be a wonderful person, and take the higher road.
All right. Is it easier after the divorce is final?
I'm down off my soapbox.
No. That's why you're here, Michelle. That's why we're looking forward to your show tomorrow at 10 a.m.
I know you are.
And once the divorce is final, is there a time when, I know some exes, they don't ever see themselves again, but can you then get to a point where maybe, since the emotions aren't as charged, that you can treat your ex with more respect, assuming that they're treating you with respect too? I mean, that's one of those things on your show, which we technically call Single Again: Life After Divorce, that you're going to address is how to be yourself afterwards. All right. Some quick questions. Don't look at my Monica. I know you're going to cheat. So look at my cards here.
If you're asking that question, though. A lot. I don't know if you're asking that question generally. Can people do that? Yes, but if you're asking that question personally, I would say no. If I was to get divorced, I would have no relationship with my spouse. I would never see them again. I would never speak to them again.
It's funny. I feel the same way.
You have really? Why is that? See, though
Yeah, they're all adults, and I would have nothing to do with that person.
When you have young children, you have to. You have to for them
But
to
if you
get
didn't
along.
have young children, Michelle,
If I did have young children, if I had no children, absolutely, never see you again, great.
Even if I had young
Really?
children,
So
I
easy.
would. So that's where trouble would be.
Well, that's a great segue into
that's
into this
because
next.
I would just cut her out of my life.
Yeah.
But I do
Okay.
that- I do
Let's
that to
not go
people
too.
anyways.
I hear
If
you,
I'm-
but let's not go too far down that road. Okay.
Say too much.
Okay. In
Joanne knows that.
Yeah, keep it together.
In 2008,
That's funny.
in 2008 in Utah, there were 9,880 divorces.
Wait, 2008 was what?
In 2008, there were 9,880 divorces in Utah.
Wow, mine was
Okay.
one of them.
Okay. What percentage of those were marriages that lasted less than 6 years? What percentage of the almost 10,000 divorces lasted less than 6 years? Studio audience, if you'd like to chime on this one, I'm back on. I can actually see what's going on again. Give me a 70%, somebody says.
I'd say
Come on,
80.
let's do a guess.
More like 80.
80?
Yeah, it's
Michelle's
gotta be
guessing
high.
80. Jay?
I
don't-
hate to
Less
say
than
it.
6
I think
years.
it's high. I think it's high.
like maybe, yeah. No, I don't know.
Come
Maybe,
on, Brent.
Maybe 60, a little over 50.
I'm more optimistic than that. I'm maybe 50.
It's actually 41%. So,
Wow, really?
okay, so 41% of the divorces lasted
I was
less
gonna
than
say
6
that.
years.
I was gonna say that.
Let's get you look at my
Yeah,
paper here. Okay.
Interesting.
I don't like. There's a follow-up question.
I just can't
here, so
see
don't
that
look
far.
at this one. Don't cheat.
Okay.
Okay. Studio audience also. Okay. Out of those same almost 10,000 divorces, what percentage had no children?
10%?
In Utah?
Hey, this is Utah. This is Utah. Utah.
Legitimate?
And legitimate or illegitimate children, regardless.
Hey.
You said you wanted jokes. I
Okay.
have them.
Give me a percentage.
10.
30%, somebody says, in our studio audience.
Had no children.
No children. Yeah, all we
You
know
what?
is from
Now,
statistics is
give me
no
this.
children.
Are you counting second marriages?
Yeah, it doesn't say in the stats. It's just that there was no
Because
children in the
there's a lot
marriage.
of second marriages where they don't have any children,
Yeah.
but they split. I'd still say low, 10, 20%.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I was thinking 10 or 20 in Utah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should.
Monica, come on.
I said 10 at the beginning. I was
Okay.
the first one to say 10. So.
You guys are way off.
I'm going to go 30.
He's still way off. That's what 30 is. Come on, studio audience, they're
Hey, so
way
these are
off.
marriages that
These
did
are
not have
marriages that
children.
did not have children that got divorced. This is a
And that's
surprising
Utah County,
statistic.
come on.
50%?
49%.
Wow, really?
49%, which
They were married 6 years and they had no kids.
well, no. We can't necessarily correlate
that's why I think
those
it
two.
could be
Must have been a
second
sex issue.
In other words, we don't know. It's likely
Oh, it's of all the divorces.
of all the 10,000
not, of,
900.
not of the ones that were less
Right.
than 6 years. Okay.
Okay, because the ones that were married less than 6 years, probably
too
you're right.
much.
That's probably closer to like 90%. All right, so it raises the question, even though we said let's get a divorce, do we actually need a second category? In other words, when we talk about divorce, I tend to think children, because I've got children. I've got 6 children. Okay, so I tend to think of my own circumstance and kind of go, okay. But when we see that half of the divorces in Utah in 2008 had no children, do we need a separate category? And I'm not counting the annulments, by the way. I took those out. Okay. Do we need a separate category for divorce that says divorce with no children, divorce with children, and then would we treat them differently? For example, on a divorce with no children, we're talking about financial arrangements. See you later. Have a nice life. And does it have the same implications?
No.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely. So like Brent and I said, no kids or grown kids or whatever, you're out of there and never see each other again. When you have kids, you're actually going to fight for the marriage for a while. You're going to struggle. You're going to go to counseling. You're going to have so much more sorrow and pain and guilt and all these horrible things. And sorry, I didn't mean to be so negative. But yeah, it's definitely so much harder to do with children. They are way different.
So when we realize that half of the divorces in Utah, there's no kids.
That's shocking, actually. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it makes me go, is this newlyweds where it didn't work out?
Yeah,
or is this
something-
Well,
second
like,
marriages?
and that's
third
why I gave you the
marriages?
first statistic that
Yeah.
41% of the divorces had been married for less than 6 years. So there's a high likelihood that a lot of those divorces in those first 6 years of marriage did not have children.
Well, Jay had a good comment. What was it, Jay?
I don't remember. Is it a sexual issue? Is that one?
We'll get to that on another show. What I see out of that is that as we're talking about divorce, part of the goal of this show and the rest of the single marriage show is to get better information so that we don't use a broad brush, so we can go into some specifics, because what we're really talking about nationwide, I know that the largest demographic of those that get divorced are aged 25 and younger. So this is what you guys were talking about on Tuesday, and that we may be looking at an issue that's different than what we thought. It could be that half those divorces have nothing to do with children or some of the other things, but they really were just poorly prepared couples for marriage. Yeah. And then they didn't seek out the counseling. They didn't start talking. They didn't have those relationships.
Not to mention, you just don't know who the heck you are if you're when you're 25. And
well, and we do have we do have the issue here for LDS folks that you don't have a full relationship. And folks, I'm going to ask you to go back and watch the Tuesday episode of Single Marriage that's in the archives, because Dr. Gilchrist does a great job addressing this issue about sex before marriage. And so if you want to watch that episode, you can play catch up on some of what we covered.
I'm sorry, Dr. Who? Who's that?
Brent here.
Oh, Brent. Okay.
And so
that's what I got in one of my student reviews. Who the heck is Dr. Gilchrist anyway?
All right.
No, that's great.
And so we're coming to the end of our time on this show. Next week, again, we're going to have Kelly Snyder in, and we'll be talking more about some of the details of divorce. I'm Kent Vorkink. I'm the creator of the Single Marriage Show, so you can blame me. Send a comment via the website. If you'd like to be a guest on this show, because our guest players will rotate around, there is a guest form on singlemarriage.utahvalleylive.com that you can submit to be a guest on any of our shows across the week if you're approved by the host. Just as a reminder, we've got tomorrow's episode, our edition of Single Marriage is Single Again, Life After Divorce, with our own Michelle Cope Osmond leading that. And you want to tell us who your two guests are tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have the beautiful Laurie Fraser, and equally as beautiful, both of these ladies are also single divorced moms, and they have so much insight and soulful material. The other beautiful lady is Nicole Willem Huntsman. They're just going to knock your socks off. They have so much to say. This is an area that doesn't get talked about much in Utah Valley, and it really needs a platform for divorced people, especially if you're LDS. But it's not just for LDS, it's for everyone. And it's one of those subjects that needs a lot more attention than it gets.
Great. And then, of course, Monica will be back on the air tomorrow morning with Fun Film Friday with Sophia Monet. Monday, we'll have Giles and Monet, Love Detectives, with their Single and Loving It or Not episode for Single Marriage. And then Tuesday, we're still putting together our show for Let's Get Married, which will be hosted again by Monica and Brent. Wednesday, we look forward to having Amy Francombe, a local marriage therapist, who will be handling the What We Didn't Know as Newlywed show. So we're wrapping up for today. Tell your friends, let people know that they can be part of the studio audience, that they can watch online. We intend to bring you in more and more once we get past this first week of kind of introducing the shows, and actually once I sit down, because I talk more than everybody combined, so that'll give everybody a chance. And I'll actually be able to monitor the chat room too and be able to forward some of their questions, so it's just tough to do if I'm busy yapping. So I want to thank you all for paying attention during the show. I thank all of you as guests and co-hosts. Looking forward to what could be a really positively impactful show and series on people here in Utah Valley and elsewhere. So thanks for your contribution, your time. We'll see you all later.